Hello and welcome to Deep Blue Sea, the podcast. I am your host, Jay Cluett, and this is an episode of Deep Blue Sea, the podcast After Dark, because we're recording very much at night for both me and my guest. We're maybe a quieter show because both of our wives are asleep, potentially in the same house. Mine is in the next room. It is very early for me. It is very late for the guest, and it is fitting because we are talking about a film that takes place mostly in darkness. So we're talking about The Descent. What is The Descent? Well, The Descent is a 2005 film directed by Neil Marshall, starring Shauna Macdonald, Natalie Mendoza, Alex Reed, Saskia Mulder, Maya Buring, and Nora Jane Noon. Is about a group of 6 friends who all go potholing, I would call it, but caverning, spelunking, going underground, exploring some caves, and things go awry when that happens. If you have not seen The Descent, we will be going into some spoilers during the course of this podcast. I would recommend watching it. It's a great film. I'd never seen it before, and it is our least Deep Blue Sea adjacent film. We'll get into that soon. But I need a guest to help me talk about this. So joining me from the Rambling Ramblers movie podcast is Justin Gott. Justin, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate it.
So you were last on for the Deep Blue Sea chapter of when they were rising from that chamber. Going up that spout. The exact opposite of what happens in The Descent. That was the ascent of Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah. That's a tremendous callback. That's great.
That was on the fly. So I want to know, the Descent, are you an outdoor adventure junkie? Do you like doing these kinds of things? Is it extreme
No,
sports?
not at all. I mean, no, not extreme, no. A good hike is perfectly fine, and, getting to see some views, always down for that. But going underground or into small spaces, that's actually one of the reasons why this movie scares the bejesus out of me, is because it's a claustrophobic movie, and I am, in fact, claustrophobic. And I just think the way that it's filmed, it's like it puts you in that spot. And so, yeah, it's super scary because of that.
I share your claustrophobia at times. I have a strange desk-based claustrophobia, where when I'm working on something and my desk is too cluttered, I feel like I feel like I'm being pressed in by just things around me. So I have to have a cleaning burst to make some space so I can think. Which I've not come across anywhere else. I call it claustrophobia, but I don't know.
That's what happens in The Descent too, I think. I think that's the main part of the plot, is someone's desk is a little bit cluttered.
Oh, good. I was going to ask. I haven't seen the sequel, but now that is good. Good to know.
You can skip it now.
Wonderful. I was going to anyway. I hadn't heard good things. And
can we go back real quick? Would you call it potholing? What did you call it?
Yeah, potholing is a UK equivalent, I think, of where what a pothole is. That's the hole in the road.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know where that term came from in reference to this, because you don't go into a pothole.
No, but even if you do, it's it's maybe 2-3 inches deep. It's just deep enough to mess up your tire if you hit it in the wrong spot. But
yeah, absolutely.
These people are going far underground.
I'm not saying it's a good word for what it is. This is the one instance where the UK way of saying something is the wrong one. Every other time is right.
The one way.
The one
way. Okay. Yeah, spelunking is the word I always had kind of heard. I mean, cave diving, maybe, something. But I don't know. That kind of seems weird and not really the same thing. I don't know if you're diving in caves. So, but I think
water, I suppose,
probably the most universal term. Yeah.
Well, going on the topic of different terms for things, the game that they play to determine who is the driver, where you would use your hands to mimic either a piece of paper, a pair of scissors, or what do you call that?
That would be rock, paper, scissors.
Okay, fine, good, me too. Because they say in this paper, scissors, stone.
Stone.
And I didn't. Yeah, I've heard that elsewhere, but I thought that was an American thing, and I was like, "What?
No.
When did this change?" But no, good. Yeah. I'm glad we have this agreement of rock, paper, scissors.
Good. Yeah. Or sometimes people would get famous and call it Rochambeau. Have you ever heard that?
I've heard that expression, but had no idea that was referring to this.
Yeah, there was I don't know where it originated.
That's in Hamilton. The code word is Rochambeau.
Well, yeah, I believe he was a French general or something in the American Revolutionary War. I'm fairly certain that he's a famous
Oh yeah,
historical
I don't think
figure,
they made it up for Hamilton.
no, yeah, exactly. But I don't know that, like, I mean, I don't know, did he play rock, paper, scissors a lot? Like, this is what I need to know. And I just didn't do the research. But to your point, yes, rock, paper, scissors is the correct. Is it, she was from Scotland, that character? Or was like, so are we going to, like, investigate other parts of your neck of the woods and see if they do it with stone? Is that what it is?
Maybe. I mean, I've been to Scotland recently. I didn't try and play this with any of the locals, but maybe next time I will. I missed opportunity. But yeah, I'm with you on the adventure sports in terms of when they were going up to the mouth of the cave, just that hike up the mountain along a waterfall, beautiful. I'll do that all day.
Sure.
As soon as they got to the big hole in the ground, I'm like, hey, let's go in. I was like, no, I'm gonna either keep going uphill for a bit, then turn around, head back to the car, or because I'm always gonna be walking around with a dog with me, who is asleep on the bed behind me as we record this. So yeah, any hippie splish splash in that stream as we go up, we're having a wonderful time. I'm a big fan of long walks that involve waterfalls or raging rivers. That's my happy place.
It's a wonderful thing. But as soon as you go into the dark tunnel of any kind, or when they go into that first hole and it's like about the size of a human body that you can fit into it, it's just not happening. There's just no way you're getting me into it. And, again, and I think that's one of the reasons why I love it and I can revisit it, although it has been, I'd say it's probably been a good 10 years since I've seen it. But I'm not like haunted by this movie because I'm never going down there. Like,
this is a cautionary tale to you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but I guess on top of that, like, I'm not worried that the events in this movie are going to happen to me. Like, that's where, like, and I think we've had this conversation recently. Was it on Lamperty? I think it was on Lamperty because we were talking about scary movies.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
And like, like the supernatural stuff, like I can't really explain that stuff. And I don't know if I believe in it or I don't. But then if it happens, like that stuff could happen. I don't know, and so like, I don't like to mess with those movies because then you kind of start, inviting those things to possibly occur. Whereas like this, like I can totally enjoy from the comfort of my couch and not worry about it actually happening to me because I'm not going into that cave.
Yeah, I can see that. For me with horror, if it is of a supernatural bent, then I do tend to not be scared by it. I am very much a cynic and a strong atheist when it comes to any kind of supernaturalness. I don't find that often scary. It depends on the filmmaking, of course.
Sure.
We talked about Paranormal Activity back on that Lamperty episode, which is all supernatural, but also terrifying. Right. Whereas The Descent, what happens in this film, I feel like there is an unknown element to it. There are creatures waiting down there, but they're not of an alien descent. They are of hey, we've been living underground for centuries, millennia.
Yeah.
Descent, which I feel like that could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were watching it though. Actually, my wife watched it with me. She said she had seen it, but imagined it had probably been since it had come out around then. We both kind of were like, this movie works. It's about 45 minutes, about almost the halfway point before the creatures even really appear in any way. And I think that it could work without them, honestly. Like, it's scary enough for someone like me, for these women to go on this adventure and this hike, and, they're going potholing, as it were. And, they're going underground, and then they get stuck and they're trying to get out. And like, there's some tension there. And there was enough drama between the characters, that's kind of created within the script that I think you could probably pull this movie off without the monsters.
Yeah. I mean,
now, is it better or worse? I don't know.
It's a different film.
Could.
Because, we just did an episode on Cliffhanger, which is like the inverse version of this, where they go up a mountain and kind of get stuck, or like Vertical Limit is the same kind of thing.
Vertical Limit, yeah.
Whereas this is so there's no monsters or other element to those, but then they are both less of a horror film, more of a kind of action adventure
thriller.
With a clear bad guy in them who's external to the climbers. Right. So you might need to add that other element. But I was saying the same thing. I had an inkling that there were creatures in this before I watched it. This was my first time watching it. So I thought I'd heard there was something, which was disappointing that I'd heard That would have been a nice surprise, I think.
Well, I mean, they do give it away in the trailer. I'll never forget the trailer because the trailer had that first video camera moment, where the pan goes right, left, and then back to the right. And it's yeah, exactly. Like that was in the trailer. So like they definitely leaned into it because I don't think you're getting as many people into a theater by just saying, hey, they're stuck in a cave. Like, I just don't think that's happening. So, I mean, again, I think you might even have a more interesting movie if you go that direction. But this way, you're getting a whole nother audience because people want to see monsters and people want to see people potentially getting ripped apart by monsters. And you get that, so it's definitely in that vein because of that. But yeah, it's just a fun movie. It actually had, to me, I really enjoy the fact that it goes for like the really obvious jump scares, the ones that don't actually aren't scary or anything. But then they throw in ones that are legitimately shocking that both are and aren't like scary in that sense. Where like a lot of jump scares aren't scary, right? Where it's just like, oh, the girl, we thought it was going to be a scary thing, but it was actually just one of her friends, and so everything's fine.
Oh,
right?
Like when the bats appear behind Sarah.
Perfect example.
That's not scary. It's terrifying for her, but not for us.
Correct, right. And it's a jump scare because there's no sound, and then all of a sudden there's lots of sound. But there was the one moment towards the beginning of the movie where she's dreaming. I think it's when the night before they go out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and the pipes burst through the window.
She's dreaming. Yeah, that's a legitimate jump scare, and it's just, I mean, it's scary in the sense that it's like a dream and she's waking from it. But I mean, that got me up for sure. But I, on another note, had completely forgotten the opener, like the prologue, if you will, to this movie.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you saw it for the first time, so pretty, they throw you in there. It's pretty sudden.
Yeah, speaking of things I wasn't expecting, the car crash that happens, this is the Deep Sea podcast, the fact that they're starting out on a boat, on water, very happy about that. Love that connection to Deep Sea, great. But when it then turns around to driving away from that, and the lead, Sarah, her husband and young daughter, are killed in a car crash, brutally, by crashing into the copper pipe version of the truck from Final Destination 2. Through the windshield. And we see her husband get, kebabbed. And very grateful we didn't see the daughter get killed. But we find that out in the next scene.
They were smart about that.
Yeah, that would have turned a lot of people off the film, I think. That's a very different kind of audience. That was that. Although I am kind of glad that they had the crash, because, speaking of cliffhanger, one of my gripes about that was there's a scene when Stallone is driving. Have you seen Cliffhanger?
It has been a really long time.
No worries.
So,
there's a scene when Stallone's heading to the mountain after he's been away for a while, and there's these two kind of local base jumpers. He's driving along next to them for 5-10 minutes, and the entire time Stallone's checking the road, but those two guys aren't. They're just looking left out the window at him, never even glancing at the road, and it frustrates me so much when that happens in films. So I like that they get distracted, he's not watching the road, immediate crash.
Yeah, it felt real, yeah. It also kind of implied that, at least to my end, he and Sarah, too, I believe, are American, right? That was what I gathered. And so maybe driving on the wrong side of the road for them, because that was supposed to be in Scotland. And so, maybe there's that, too, where he's not paying attention and he doesn't know kind of how to do the drive. I don't know. It all kind of it was really realistic that that would happen in that moment.
Yeah. I think Sarah was Scottish. I'm not sure about her husband.
Yeah.
I love all the accents in this film. They're all... because when they're underground, not a lot of light going on, so they just have that extra element to distinguish between the characters. So,
well, see, I was gonna bring that up. That I thought that there could have maybe been a little bit more diversity in the cast, because there's only so many ways you can kind of tell which woman is which at that point, and they give them enough distinguishing characteristics, she's the doctor. And that's the main character, and then that's her better friend, and so then there's just that one other girl who's just kind of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.